You're listening to Kizuki, the podcast. I'm Mae Yoshikawa, and I define the Japanese concept of Kizuki as the following. Kizuki 1. A moment of epiphany, an aha of realization or insight which opens the knower to a new dimension of truth that was formerly unknown. 2. Steps in an incremental growth of awareness, resulting in a movement from ignorance to greater awareness of the bigger picture. A kind of knowing that cannot be undone, that cannot be unrealized. As a longtime yoga and meditation practitioner, a world traveler, and curious self-explorer, I'm obsessed with Kizukis. Listen on each week for inspiring and enlightening stories that may just tip you over for your next aha. On this week's episode, Bear the Silence. Can you bear your own silence? That was a question posed by one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Muji. And it points to something really significant for not just us meditation and mindfulness practitioners, but really all of us who deeply long for peace. Much in the same way that you can find yourself across a coffee table or in some setting where you're hanging out with your friends and there's this awkward, unbearable silence and somebody has to just say something to fill in the space. Silence can be uncomfortable and even triggering for many of us. Yet the truth is that when life goes up and down and you notice your mind going left and right and things start to feel turbulent, we all long for peace. And yet when peace comes in the form of silence, a sense of nothingness, emptiness, we can often squirm and dodge just to fill in the space. Now, that is a huge paradox. It suggests the point that should you really seek true peace, you have to be okay with non-movement. So what that says is that being human comes with a lot of movement, whether it's on the outside or internally in the form of thoughts, emotions, feelings. Being human is a very dynamic thing. So, if we were to say that human nature is in movement, I would even say that, as far as I can understand in all of my years of yoga and meditation studying, it's the nature of the human mind to be in movement. So to find true and lasting peace suggests that we're moving beyond mind. And I might even say beyond humanness that way. And for many of us, this is where spirituality comes in, because as much as we engage with our mind and engage with the world through our minds, we also know that there is a sense of knowing and a sense of being beyond the movements of mind and all of the thoughts and emotions that make up the mind. I was in conversation with a really close friend yesterday, and we were talking about meditation. And I asked her, well, how did you get into meditation in the first place? Well, I knew that she had kind of touched upon it, like through her practice of yoga. She was introduced to meditation years ago, but I also knew that she didn't really get into it back then. She kind of like nibbled at it, but didn't have a regular practice. And then some years later, maybe like more than 10 years later, she really got into a dedicated practice of meditation. So I asked her, what changed her. You know, it was something that was so hard for her to maintain and keep up a regular practice. And then something just shifted. And she goes, you know, the truth is that my family was going through a really rough time. And even for her as an adult, her sort of sense of foundation and belonging and love and peace in her family had really changed, and she lost that grounding. And it was so turbulent for her emotionally and psychically that she needed something. She needed something. And that was when she came back to meditation and dove into a regular practice, made herself sit with commitment and diligence, and continued her practice. And I was like, okay, say no more. I get it. So for some of us, like her and me, and actually many of us, maybe for some of you, it's exactly those turbulent, tumultuous times in our lives that pushes us to, or almost even forces us to sit and sit with the turbulence, sit with the movement, with commitment and diligence in a way that would help show us that we can sit and be beyond these movements. So here's what I kind of want to talk with you guys about today. And it's that, well, what about the rest of us? If you don't have any turbulent happenings in your life, if you're not particularly going through a rough patch, can you still come to meditation and find your silence, find your peace in a lasting way? And the answer, of course, is yes. And whatever way, you're still going to have to find the same level of commitment and diligence, because that's what really counts, right? That's what's going to ground you and anchor you to your silence in a lasting way. So it always begins by a sort of search, looking on the outside, like to find my peace and to find my silence. But actually, no, the silence is already there. Are you committed enough to stay there? Are you okay with silence? And that's why this question posed by Muji, can you bear your own silence, has such impact, because it puts it right to our face. Many of us actually can't. We squirm, we dodge, we go back to movement, and even go back to suffering, because some form of feeling something, even if it's painful, even if it's hard, is better than the nothingness of emptiness and silence. So I would almost say that it's like an innate human fear that comes up in the face of deep silence and emptiness. Like, are you willing to be okay with nothingness? Are you willing to know yourself as nothingness? And that's really what this practice points to. And the truth beyond that is something that I won't even dare to speak about in words, because it has to be experiential anyway. There's no point talking about it, because it only conceptualizes it in a little bit of a fake way. And the only true meaning here is that each of us takes our own journey, our own process to find our own peace, which inevitably you'll always find on the inside. Find your silence, again, inevitably first on the inside. Then, as you discover that, oh, it was already there, it was already always there, then to allow yourself to get used to it in a way where you're okay with that silence. It's almost kind of a twisted way to say, can you bear it? because it's actually what we really want, except we have to learn to tolerate it or something. But once the mind is trained beyond the conditioning, beyond how accustomed we are to movement, it actually is our original nature. It actually is our home and our point of peace. Thank you for listening. Learn more about me in my upcoming book, Kizuki, Realizations Beyond Time and Death, at my website, maey.live, or find me on Instagram at maeyoshiKawa.